Hi everybody, welcome back on my channel. Today I want to tell you some basics about apple snails. Um, I have some snails in my fish tank, as you probably noticed on some previous videos I uploaded before um, about apple snails. That's the largest freshwater snail species and popular addition to the home aquarium. Unlike pond snails, which are a nuisance, apple snails are welcomed by aquarium hobbyists for their scavenging habits, often included in aquarium cleanup crew for the shop crew. Apple snails feed on algae and other detritus in the aquarium, helping to keep the tank clean. The apple snail is the most common name. These freshwater snails are also known as mystery snails. They belong to the family Aplidae, uh, in the class Gastropoda. The snail uh, the, the snails in this family are unique because they have a lung and a grill. So their mental cavity is divided to separate these two respiratory structures. To put it more simply, apple snails have unique anatomical adaptations, which allows them to be amphibious. They can live both on land and on water and in water. Sorry. Um, Another thing, apple snails have the potential to grow fairly large, so keep that in mind. At least 1 inch in diameter. As such, they are best suited to large aquariums where they have a wide area to graze. Keep in mind that these snails will eat live plants. That's very important. So if you have live plants, you might lose some of them. So you probably wouldn't get those snails to use them in your planted fish tanks, unless if you unless is a heavily planted, then you might be okay. And what I would do, just make sure you provide supplemental food for your snails. There's a few quite popular species of those apple snails, and I'm gonna bring five of them. Um, when you see apple snails in the aquarium section in the pet store, it is mostly the species Pomacea, Pomacea bridgesi or something like that, and it's also known as Pomacea diffusa, or the spike-topped apple snail. When shopping for aquarium snails, it's best to select specimens that are either moving or attached to a surface. Never buy a snail with a cracked or damaged shell. Don't do that. I'm gonna give you a quick overview of the most popular species of apple snail. So like I said, Pomacea diffusa is also known as the spike-topped apple snail. This species is native to South America and is the most common species of apple snail kept in the home aquarium. These snails are peaceful and omnivorous species that can grow up to 3 inches. Yeah, they grow quite big. And they come in several color variations. Through the bright gold color is most popular one. Another one is Pomacea canaliculata. and this one is commonly known as the golden apple snail or the channeled apple snail. These snails are also native to South America, so they are one of the world's worst invasive species in other areas. This species is this species has a globular shaped shell, which has colored usually brown, black, and yellowish tan. They also exist in albino and gold color variations. Another one is Pomacea maculata, and this one is also known as the island apple snail. This species is also highly invasive in Europe. These snails range in color from pale olive green to dark green with dark bands stripping across the shell. Compared to other apple snails, the shell is quite thin and the inside is covered in dark spots. Gold and albino variations of this species exist as well. Um, Another one, Pomacea paludosa, Pomacea paludosa. This one's commonly known as the Florida apple snail. This species is native to North America and has a globose shell with white whorls and depressed spiral. They are usually brown in color with a striped pattern, and their shell is usually equal in length and width. Uh, Another one that's Pomacea haustrum, also known as the Titan apple snail. This species was originally considered the same as Pomacea canaliculata, but has since been named as a separate species. These snails have large globular shells with a channeled structure, um, and they are typically brown in color. Uh, there's one thing to keep in mind about apple snails that can be tricky to tell the difference between the species. Many apple snail species exhibit similar coloration and patterns, and many came in gold and albino variations on top of their normal um, coloration. Look for clues in the shape of the shell, the size of the snail, and the pattern of stripes or bands to tell the difference. Well, if you plan to keep more than one apple snail in the same tank, you'll need to make sure that they have a large enough. You make sure you have large enough tank, and if you have live plants, just make sure it's packed. Um, Most apple snails are peaceful species, but they do require a lot of grazing area. Um, Otherwise, their might starve or fail to thrive. Um, Couple tips for caring for apple snails. Well, um, as is true for any aquarium, inhabitant apple snail have specific requirements for care. You know, as I already mentioned, that the important is that you have to provide enough space to graze, but you also need to consider some tank preparations. The ideal temperature for apple snails is 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, range from 70 to 80. High temperature will increase their spawning rate. Water hardness should be kept between 6 and 12. Fruit apple snails are very adaptable. The best pH for them would be between 6.5 to 8, when then obviously about 7 would be ideal. As is true for most aquarium um, inhabitants, the lower the nitrate and ammonia levels, the better. Nitrates should be as close to zero as possible, but no higher than 40. Oh, sorry. I didn't sleep well last night. Um, with the right tank parameters and enough food for apple snails should thrive. In the wild, these snails feed on dead and rotting plants, but in the home aquarium, they're more likely to consume algae as well as detritus. Um, it will benefit your snails to keep a few live plants in the tank through. You should know that they will become a food source live plants shed as they grow. Um, and these fallen leaves become an excellent source of food for apple snails. The best way to develop a tank for apple snails is to cultivate a wide variety of plants, Java moss, Java fern, the homeward, and the homeward is quite good for them. I'd even say it's an excellent option because they grow quickly and are hardy ones. You may also want to include driftwood. Well, from my point of view, driftwood should find a place in every fish tank. In your tank, for the snails, well, obviously to feed it from. Keeping the water level just low enough that parts of the driftwood are um, out of water. Make sure to keep tight lid on your tank. However, because the snails can get out and live out of water. Um, about breeding apple snails. If you have a large enough tank to accommodate them, or several tanks, you might think about breeding your apple snails. In order to do so, you'll need a male and a female. When kept in the same tank together, these two apple snails should mate without much help. Make sure the temperature is between 70 or 80, or maybe just a tiny bit higher, and it's gonna be fine. When the female apple snail is ready to lay her eggs, she will do so at or above the surface of the water. Apple snails deposit their eggs in a cocoon, which makes them easy to spot. If you don't want your tank to become overrun with apple snails, simply remove the eggs. If you do want to hatch them, keep the air around the most. Um, if they are deposited above the water, just make sure there is some water, that there's moisture around them. Um, um, and expect to hatch them in about 2 weeks' time, usually. Um, uh, what else? Well, when they hatch, they're gonna fall down to the bottom, and they will start feeding on whatever they find on the bottom of your fish tank. Uh, there's a way to encourage your snails to breed. You can try lowering the water level by a few inches so they have room to lay their eggs. Providing plenty of food and higher water temperature, like I mentioned before, might help them as well. Also, remember that apple snails can grow very quickly if they have enough food, so they can. Keep an eye on your snails to make sure they don't overpopulate the tank you got. Um, um, uh, Sometimes people asking that are apple snails right for your tank? Well, apple snails make a great addition to the freshwater tank, especially if you are looking for an inhabitant that will keep things clean. Just make sure you have enough space for vegetation in your tank to support your snails, and keep the conditions in your tank, keep it clean and properly balanced. I wish you good luck. I'm gonna attach couple pictures of those snails, so make sure you we will get the one you're actually looking for. Thanks for watching. Hopefully, thumbs up, and see you next time.